Servants don't sit with us. Those words didn't come from a bitter old aunt or some snobbish relative. They came from an 11-year-old boy, my nephew, as he kicked the chair out from under me. The sound of wood scraping against hardwood sliced through the room like a knife. For a moment, time froze. Every conversation at that long mahogany table stopped. 18 pairs of eyes, my entire family, turned toward me, the unwanted guest at my sister's perfect Sunday dinner. Carter grinned, proud of his performance. Mom said so, he added, his voice clear and cruel in its childish honesty. Vanessa, my sister, didn't even flinch. She smiled into her wine glass, as if the humiliation unfolding at her table were a private joke. Carter, she said mildly, that's not polite. But he pushed on, eager to please her. But you said Aunt Maggie is basically the help. You said she serves us. Uncle Richard laughed first. Then my brother-in-law. Then my cousin Jennifer. Within seconds, the whole table was shaking with laughter. Not polite, nervous chuckles, genuine amusement. My mother tried to cover her mouth, but I saw her shoulders trembling. The only sound louder than their laughter was my heartbeat in my ears. I looked at Vanessa. She met my eyes, still smiling, and shrugged. Kids, what can you do? I stood there for a second, my throat tight, my hands trembling at my sides. Then I picked up my purse from the entryway, turned, and walked out the front door. No one stopped me. Behind me, Uncle Richard's voice drifted out. Well, that was dramatic. Laughter followed me down the driveway. I sat in my car, hands still on the steering wheel, watching the house glow through the windows, the warm, golden light of a family dinner I no longer belonged to. I could almost hear them passing the mashed potatoes, laughing again, already forgetting I'd even been there. At 9:47 p.m. my phone buzzed. Vanessa. Finally gone. 2 words. Not are you okay? Not I'm sorry about Carter. Just finally gone. I stared at those words until they blurred, then walked into my office and unlocked the filing cabinet. 3rd drawer down, Harrison Family Trust. 7 years ago, when I sold my tech company for $47 million, I was 29, suddenly wealthy and naively hopeful that money could buy closeness. I set up the trust to take care of my family. $12 million spread across names I loved or thought I did. Vanessa got $120,000 a year. Her kids had education funds. My brother Thomas got $80,000. Mom received $60,000. Cousins, nieces, nephews, all of them benefited. And every single one of them had laughed when my nephew kicked my chair. What they didn't know, what I'd never told them, was that I was the benefactor. They believed the money came from Great Uncle Bernard, a made-up relative I'd invented because it was easier than explaining that the woman they pitted, the single one, the workaholic, was actually the one financing their lives. I opened my laptop and typed an email to my lawyer. David, please prepare immediate revocation documents for the Harrison Family Trust. Remove all beneficiaries and dissolve the trust effective immediately. Transfer all assets to my personal accounts. Tonight, if possible. At 10:17, David called. His voice was cautious. Maggie, I just saw your email. Are you sure about this? Completely. This trust supports your entire family. Your sister, your brother, their children. I'm aware. What happened? I told him. Every detail, the laughter, the humiliation, Vanessa's text. There was silence on the line, then a low whistle. Jesus Christ. Can you process it tonight? I can. But Maggie, this is $12 million. They'll be ruined. They got their quarterly payments last week. They'll survive for 3 more months. That's not much notice. It's more than I got. He was quiet again. Then, all right. I'll file everything before morning. When we hung up, I stared at the glowing screen for a long time. My hands were shaking as I typed one last message to Vanessa. Like your inheritance. Then I powered off my phone and went to bed. At 6:14 a.m., the world woke up angry. My phone rang nonstop. Vanessa, Thomas, Mom. By 6:22, David's confirmation arrived. Trust revocation complete. All assets transferred to your accounts. By 6:45, Vanessa texted. Call me right now. Something's wrong with the trust account. I didn't reply. At 7:02, Thomas called. Maggie, what the hell's going on? The trust account shows 0. That's correct. Where's the money? In my accounts. What do you mean, your accounts? That's family money. There is no family money, Thomas. There is no great Uncle Bernard. It was mine. All of it. Silence. Then disbelief. Why would you do this? Because last night, your nephew made sure I couldn't sit at your table. Because 18 people laughed. Because your sister celebrated me leaving. He exhaled sharply. He's a kid, Maggie. He learned it from you. By 8 a.m., I had 37 missed calls. By 9 o'clock, there was pounding on my door. Vanessa. Hair tangled, still in pajamas, eyes red. Maggie, open this door. Please. Her voice cracked, frantic. I didn't move. The trust is empty, she cried. You've ruined my children's future over a stupid joke. I closed my eyes. It wasn't a joke, Vanessa. It was cruelty. There was silence. Then the sound of her sliding down the other side of the door, sobbing. I didn't open it. The next morning, I found my mother standing in the hallway outside my apartment. Her eyes were red from crying, but her lipstick was perfectly applied, the kind of woman who'd rather die than appear disheveled in public. Maggie, please, she whispered, clutching her handbag like it might help her reason with me. Think of the children. I leaned against the doorframe. I have. They're learning that cruelty gets rewarded. Her mouth trembled. They're just kids. And you're the adults who laughed. She flinched like I'd struck her. For a second, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she said softly, you've always been so sensitive. Sensitive. That word again. The lifelong dismissal of every hurt I'd ever carried. When I was 10 and Vanessa ripped my sketchbook in half, sensitive. When I got cheated out of a promotion, too emotional. Now, when I was publicly humiliated by my own family, sensitive. Mom, I said evenly, I've spent 7 years funding people who think I don't deserve a chair at the table. I'm done paying for their contempt. She sighed, defeated. You can't buy love, you know. I'm well aware. When she left, her perfume lingered, sharp, expensive, suffocating. The smell of every family dinner I'd ever endured. By midweek, the fallout was in full swing. My inbox overflowed with long-winded essays disguised as apologies. My brother Thomas sent 5 pages of rationalizations, how the family had always been there for me, conveniently skipping the fact that being there usually involved me footing the bill. Uncle Richard left a voicemail dripping with rage. You're destroying this family over nothing, he said. You've become vindictive, just like your father. That last part hit me harder than I wanted to admit. I hadn't thought about my father in years, the man who taught me silence as survival. When he left, Mom told everyone he'd moved for work. I was 12. He never came back. I deleted the voicemail without finishing it. Then came the texts from Vanessa. 43 in 3 days. They started as apologies, please, Maggie. We were wrong. I'll talk to Carter. Then bargaining, can we set up a meeting? Maybe restructure the trust? And finally, threats, I'll tell everyone what you did. The whole family will cut you off. Mom will never forgive you. You'll regret this for the rest of your life. I didn't reply to a single one. On the 8th day, my phone rang again. I almost ignored it, another unknown number. But something in me hesitated, and I answered. Maggie? It's Jen. Cousin Jennifer. The same one who'd laughed that night, wine glass in hand. I waited, silent. I just need to say something, she began. I'm not calling about money. I'm calling to apologize. The words caught me off guard. What happened at dinner was awful, she said. I laughed because everyone else was laughing. But I've been thinking about it all week, and it wasn't funny. It was cruel. Her voice wavered. Carter physically stopped you from sitting down. And we all laughed. That's God, that's messed up. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat. Thank you for saying that. I know I don't deserve to ask this, but would you talk to Vanessa? Not about the money, just... No. My voice came out sharper than I intended. She texted me finally gone. She knew exactly what she meant. I guess you're right. Jen sighed. I just hate seeing the family fall apart. The family fell apart when you all decided I didn't belong, I said quietly. I'm just making the finances match the truth. There was silence on the other end, then a soft, "You didn't overreact, Maggie." We did. After she hung up, I sat there, phone in my lap, surrounded by the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock. It was strange, the apartment had never felt quieter. I thought about Carter. 11 years old, repeating his mother's words like scripture. Servants don't sit with us. He was still a child, and children learn what they're taught. Maybe it wasn't too late to teach him something else. That night, I opened my laptop and began typing. Subject: New trusts. David, I want to establish 3 new education trusts, $500,000 each for Carter, Emma, and Jackson. Funds accessible at 25, not 18. Conditions: complete a 4-year degree and 1 year of volunteer service. Managed by an independent trustee. Vanessa will have no access or knowledge until they're adults. I don't want them punished for their parents' behavior, but I want them to understand service before they inherit anything. I read it twice before hitting send. Then, for the first time in over a week, I opened a message to Vanessa. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could have written something cruel, something final. But instead, I wrote, "Your children's education funds are gone, but I've created new ones under different terms. They'll learn about them when they turn 18. I've ensured they'll be cared for, even if you never learn how to care about anyone else. As for your distribution and everyone else's, those are gone forever. Get used to living on what you actually earn. And Vanessa, I'm not the one who destroyed this family. You did that the moment you taught your son to kick chairs." I sent it before I could hesitate. Her reply came almost instantly. "I hope you're happy being alone with your money." I looked around my quiet apartment at the stillness, the peace, and typed back. Happier than I ever was trying to sit at a table where I wasn't welcome. Then I blocked her number. That night, I slept without dreaming. And when I woke, I made my morning coffee and transferred $5 million to an organization that provided meals for homeless families, people who knew the sting of exclusion. People who understood that being left out of a table doesn't make you less worthy. It just means you were sitting at the wrong one. It started 2 weeks later. The silence that had felt like peace began to feel like absence. My phone no longer buzzed. My email stayed eerily empty. For the first time in years, no one needed me, not for money, not for approval, not even for a favor. And yet, I couldn't shake the image of my mother's face that last morning, the faint tremble of her hand as she reached for me, then pulled back. I told myself it didn't matter, that I didn't owe anyone closure. But the truth was uglier than pride. I still wanted her to understand. One evening, I went through an old box I hadn't touched in years. Inside were birthday cards, school photos, and a letter unopened, with my father's handwriting on the envelope. He had mailed it 6 months after he left. I'd found it hidden in Mom's dresser years later, addressed to me. She'd never given it to me, just tucked it away, like his words might undo her version of the story. For a long time, I couldn't bring myself to open it. Now, sitting alone at my kitchen table, I did. Maggie, if you're reading this, it means you're old enough to understand that sometimes people leave not because they stop loving, but because staying means destroying what's left of themselves. I was never good at softness, never good at staying. Your mother needed certainty, and I only had questions. You deserved better than that. Don't inherit my silence. Speak, even if your voice shakes. Dad. I read it 3 times, tracing each word until they blurred. Don't inherit my silence. It felt like a warning, or maybe permission. That night, I drove to my mother's house. The same narrow road I'd known since childhood. The same porch light that always burned too bright. She opened the door before I could knock. Her eyes widened. Maggie. I nodded. Can we talk? We sat in the living room, the same room where she used to make us sit perfectly still during holidays so the neighbors wouldn't hear family business. For a while, neither of us spoke. I opened his letter, I finally said. Her jaw tightened. You found that. You hid it from me. I was protecting you. From what? My voice rose before I could stop it. From the truth? That he didn't leave because of me, but because he couldn't breathe here. Her hand went to her pearls, her shield, her comfort. He was weak, Maggie. He ran. So did I said quietly. Only difference is, I didn't pretend it was noble. Her expression cracked, just a little. You think I don't regret what happened? That dinner. That dinner was the moment I realized this family doesn't see me as one of them. Tears welled in her eyes. You've always been too proud to forgive. And you've always been too proud to admit when you're wrong. Silence again. The kind that fills the house, not with comfort, but with ghosts. Finally, she whispered, "What do you want from me?" "I want you to stop calling me ungrateful every time I refuse to be humiliated. I want you to stop excusing cruelty as tradition. And I want you to understand that love isn't loyalty to people who mock you for sport." She covered her mouth, trembling. "I didn't know it hurt you that much." I laughed softly. "You didn't want to know." We sat there until the air grew heavy with everything we hadn't said for years. Then, out of nowhere, she whispered, "Your father used to say you were the only one who saw the world clearly." That terrified me. Why? Because I knew you'd see through me too. Her honesty disarmed me. It was the first time she'd spoken without the armor of perfection. For a moment, I saw her not as my mother, but as a woman afraid, flawed, desperately trying to keep her world from collapsing. "I never wanted to lose you," she said. "Then why did you let them laugh at me?" Her voice broke. "Because I didn't know how to stop them without losing control. And control was all I ever had left." I stared at her, this fragile version of the woman I'd spent my life fearing. "You already lost control, Mom," I said softly. "You just didn't notice when it happened." When I left that night, I didn't feel lighter. Closure isn't a door that clicks shut, it's a window that opens just enough to let air in. Outside, the sky was bruised purple. I drove past the park where Dad used to push me on the swings, the bookstore where I'd once dreamed of publishing something real, the bakery that still smelled like Sunday mornings. The world had moved on. I was the only one still standing in the ashes, holding on to memories like proof I had once belonged. At a red light, I looked down at my phone. One new message. From an unknown number. "Hi, Miss Collins. This is Carter. Mom doesn't know I'm texting you. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said that night. I was just trying to make everyone laugh. I think about it a lot." I stared at the words until they blurred. My throat tightened. He was 11. Old enough to mimic cruelty, young enough to regret it. I typed back slowly. "Thank you, Carter. I know you didn't mean it. Learn from it, that's what matters." He replied a minute later. "Can I still see you sometimes?" I smiled, tears spilling freely now. "Maybe someday. But for now, just focus on being kind. That's worth more than anything you'll inherit." That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the city lights shift through my curtains and thought about the word family. How I used to believe it meant blood, and now I realized it meant choice. Some ties are cut by betrayal. Others, by survival. And some, the rarest ones, are rewoven with truth. A month passed before I returned to my mother's house. The season had changed, leaves the color of copper and wine scattered along the driveway. The house looked smaller than I remembered, like time had quietly started taking it apart piece by piece. She met me at the door again, this time without her pearls, without her lipstick. Just her. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said softly. "I wasn't sure either," I admitted. We stood there for a long moment, neither of us knowing what to do with the fragile peace between us. Then she reached out, tentative, and touched my arm. I made tea. The kitchen smelled the same, chamomile and lemon cleaner, but something about it felt different. Maybe it was the quiet, or maybe it was the absence of tension. She poured the tea carefully, as though the sound of porcelain might shatter the calm. "I spoke to Vanessa," she said finally. I looked up. "Oh, she's angry. Blames me for not stopping you. But she's also scared. She's never had to earn anything before." I took a sip of tea. "None of them have." "I know." She sighed, looking older than I'd ever seen her. "You did what I never could. You made them face themselves. That wasn't my goal. Maybe not. But sometimes truth works like medicine, it burns before it heals." I studied her face, searching for the mother I used to know. For the first time, I didn't just see the woman who criticized and controlled, I saw the one who'd been left by a man who didn't know how to stay, who'd raised 2 daughters in the wreckage of pride. "You loved him," I said quietly. Her eyes glistened. Too much to admit it broke me. That was all she needed to say. The rest lived in the silence between us. Later that afternoon, I drove to the lake. The same one Dad used to take me to when he needed to escape the noise. The water shimmered under a pale sun, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was running from something. I sat on the dock and pulled out my phone. There were no new messages, no drama, no apologies, no demands. Just stillness. And it felt enough. I thought of Carter's message, "Can I still see you sometimes?" and smiled. Maybe one day I'd meet him again, when he was older, ready to understand the difference between wealth and worth. That night, as the sky turned to indigo, I opened my laptop one last time and began writing a letter. Not to anyone in particular, just to the version of me who'd once believed belonging meant tolerance. Dear Maggie, you did it. You walked away and the world didn't end. You lost what you thought you needed: approval, inheritance, control, and somehow, you found peace in the space that remained. They'll tell stories about you now. The bitter one. The cold one. The one who turned her back on family. Let them. The truth doesn't need defense, it only needs time. You didn't destroy a family. You exposed the cracks that were already there. And in those cracks, light finally got in. You're not alone. You just stopped mistaking noise for love. Me. I saved the letter, closed my laptop, and stood by the window. The city below hummed quietly, cars moving like veins of light through the dark. For years, I had built my worth around what I could give, what I could fix, who I could please. Now, for the first time, I understood that walking away wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. A week later, a small envelope arrived. No return address, just my name written in careful, uneven handwriting. Inside was a single note. "Thank you for the scholarship, Miss Collins. Mom doesn't know I applied. I'm going to study social work. Maybe one day I can help kids who don't have families. Like you helped me. Carter." Tears blurred the ink. I folded the letter and set it beside my father's. 2 generations of words, one teaching me to speak, the other proving I'd been heard. Outside, the wind shifted through the trees, carrying the faint scent of autumn and something new: freedom, maybe. Or forgiveness. I stepped out onto the balcony, mug in hand, the city stretching out before me like an unwritten page. For the first time, I didn't need to rewrite the past. I was finally living in the present. And in that stillness, I realized something simple and true. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away from the table and build your own.